You're watching the KGP Pregame Show, live from the KGP Studios in downtown Cambridge, Ohio. Your source for the latest local sports highlights, interviews, and information. Brought to you by And now, let's go live to the guys in the studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Caleb Graham Production Studios here in beautiful downtown Cambridge, Ohio for Week 5's edition Cafe. For Caleb Graham producing the broadcast tonight, I'm merely Tom Strasser. And once again, I'm honored to be joined by my partner in crime, a man who needs no introduction. But let's give him one anyway. The one and only Detroit. For their first
I love it when we can have all three of our teams winning, and so when we're talking over the weekend, texting each other back and forth, who do we want on the live stream or the pregame show or whatever. It's always fun to have a tough decision, but we're gonna have obviously Coach Norman first win with those guys this year, so Coach Norman will be on here later. A great win overall for Meadowbrook. Still the consistency and finishing's a little bit of an issue, but getting a shutout is always great. And you said I was thinking the first time playing on the new field for Buckeye Trail too. So even though they came up on the short end of the stick against Shenandoah last Friday, a great atmosphere and a great crowd for that, festivities all around for it. And then unfortunately Cambridge went up to Janaid Hutton and met up with a pretty strong Indian Valley team that we kind of said the record was deceiving. They've lost to some good competition, and Indian Valley, if anybody follows football, they know that they're always one of those top teams in Division IV, Region 15, year in, year out.
Yeah, and it was a tough night for Cambridge as they dropped a 3-1 on the season, and they get ready for a big showdown back at home against Bel Air. And you're right, Buckeye Trail, what an electric atmosphere it was Friday night when they unveiled their new field turf for the first time. And it was a playoff-like atmosphere with the undefeated Zeps coming in, and give Shenandoah credit. They did what they had to do to leave still undefeated, but Buckeye Trail gave themselves a chance in that game to get victory one on the season. And we look for the Warriors to definitely regroup as they head to Claymont for Week 5. So we're glad you've tuned in to watch our preview show this week, and we'll take our first time out. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Cambridge Bobcats, look back at their game against Indian Valley, and look ahead to their big pivotal game this Friday night at home against the Big Reds of Bel Air, here on the KGP Pregame Show. Welcome back for the KGP Pregame Show. This week's edition, Week 5, as we head towards the halfway point of the high school football season. But before we look forward to Cambridge's showdown this week at home, let's look back. Train as Cambridge traveled to Janaid Hutton to take on the Indian Valley Braves, a team that came in with a record of 1-2. But whoa, that was very deceiving. And in fact, in most people's eyes, Cambridge, even though they were undefeated, they were for the first time the underdog going into the contest.
Yeah, and Indian Valley definitely proved the 1-2 record was very deceiving, and they jumped off to just a great start, led 17-0, and ended up a 31-7 halftime lead, and then just kind of cruised to the 38-7 victory. Indian Valley played Indian Valley football, where they just play a power running game, and they're tough to stop. They had all their touchdowns were rushing touchdowns, finished with 263 yards rushing as a team. So, again, it's kind of Indian Valley's just a power running game and the stifling defense, and that's been the formula Coach Lancaster's had up there for a few years, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and you got to give the Braves a lot of credit. Cambridge coming in, when you look on the defensive side of the ball, they had given up only 7 points in 3 games. They had pitched 2 shutouts, but it was the line of scrimmage that Indian Valley really won the battle on. And you talked about the first half, and at the end of the first quarter, Cambridge finds themselves down 10-0 after 1. So, they're right there. But then it was the second quarter where Indian Valley really put the game away, outscoring Cambridge 21-7.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Indian Valley football where they make plays and they force you into situations that you don't want to be in. They create chaos defensively. They want to make sure that you're in second and long and third and long situations and eliminate a lot of plays from the playbook. And they've got speed and they've got power. They've got strength up front. So it's really all around great team and probably one of the best 2-2 teams that you're going to see in Division IV state of Ohio right now.
And Train, a couple of things that really stood out when you look at the final stats after the game. You talked about Indian Valley rushing for 263 yards on the contest on 38 carries. They only attempted 6 passes the entire game. But when you're able to run the ball like you can, boy, will the running game set up the pass for when you do throw it, you have an opportunity to hit some big plays. And Indian Valley did that. They were 5 of 6 passing, but 97 yards through the air on only 5 completions. So they were able to hit Cambridge up top. And we mentioned the running game, 263 yards for Indian Valley. Cambridge, on the other hand, they ran the ball 23 times, but could only mustered 29 yards.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's been some point of emphasis this week for Coach Leak. He's probably been talking about getting stronger up front. I know he talks about every day they want to get better as that offensive line every day, and they've accomplished that goal. But I'm sure probably last Friday they're looking back at film and saying, here's some things we got to work on and improve on. And obviously getting that running game going. I mean, obviously when Caden Moore's right and he's thrown for over 400 yards in games like he has in the past, it makes life pretty easy. But when the passing game's not clicking on all 8 cylinders, that get that running game going, it takes a lot of pressure off of everybody else. Look at what Indian Valley did when they could run the football, and that the running game's only going to make your passing game that much better.
And what a compliment you just gave Caden Moore and the Bobcats passing attack, because, when you say, they really couldn't get things going, a lot of teams would like to throw the ball for 212 yards and a touchdown. And Davian Barr, he had 5 catches for 90 yards and 1 touchdown. So Cambridge was able to generate some offense through the air, but just not at the standard that they had the first 3 games.
Yeah, there's a reason why Caden Moore's the school's all-time leading passing yards man, and probably some other records that we don't know that he's probably broken already again this year. But, they've got so many weapons on the outside. It's hard to just focus on this person and that person. And obviously, when their passing game struggles, it's probably going to be like at 212 yards like it was Friday. But like you said, Barr, 5 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Devin Ogle's been a threat all year. He had 6 catches for 82 yards in that game. Caldwell's out there making plays. They've got other guys. They've got probably 4 or 5 receivers that can be a threat that could take it to the house. Feldner, that was the other name. That's our top 4 receivers. I couldn't think of the fourth one. But between those 4s, you got to feed them. But I'd like to see him get the Stottsbury kid a little bit more involved in the running game, and it's going to open things up a lot more for them offensively just altogether.
And Cambridge, their offensive line has been very impressive all year. And like we said, credit Indian Valley. Their goal was, hey, we've got to stop the run and then totally focus on the passing attack that Cambridge has. They were able to do that. And when you look at Davian Barr, hey, everybody thought Aaron Judge was going to run away with the home run title. Well, I tell you what, Barr, over the first 4 weeks of the season, he has become a legitimate home run hitter on the football field, because every time he touches it, it seems like he's going to the house.
Oh, he's definitely your Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson type player in fantasy for sure. A guy that you can rely on getting you those fantasy points. And I got to continue to pat myself on the back on this one, because I said he was going to have a big year, and through the first 4 games, he has not let me down one bit. So congratulations to him on his success through 4 weeks. Let's continue it through week 15.
And now let's look forward to Friday night. Cambridge comes back home. This will be their 3rd home game of the season on their new turf. They're undefeated at home, and they are going to welcome a Bel Air squad in that's 1-3. But whoa, just like last week with Indian Valley, we talked about records being awful, deceiving. You look at who they play, and we will first, but before we get into Bel Air, Train, you got to look now. We are officially allowed to say the P word on our KGP pregame show, and that's playoffs. And when you look at Cambridge's, you look at their region, and whoa, is it loaded. You've got New Lexington, an opponent that Meadowbrook will see here in a few weeks. They're number 1 in the region. And, hey, can we welcome Steubenville to the party in that region? They're sitting at the 3 spot right now. Now, things will change. And then you've got St. Clairsville. We know how strong and powerful they are. They eliminated Meadowbrook the last 2 years in the playoffs and had incredible runs. They're sitting in the 5 spot. And then in the 8th spot is Indian Valley. And then right behind them is Cambridge sitting at the 9th spot. So it's hard to believe, Cambridge, as impressive as they've been, if the season was the playoffs was to start right now, they would be on the road and facing Indian Valley on the road. So in comes Bel Air, and Bel Air is going to win their share of games. So there's a lot riding on this game, not to mention that it's a league game as well.
Yeah, obviously you want to win every game you play, but there's some games that mean a little bit more, and this is the Buckeye 8 conference game. And when you're talking old school Cambridge fans, they love this Cambridge-Bel Air rivalry. I mean, it probably didn't get any better than when you're talking about the 80s in basketball, when you're talking Cambridge or Bel Air, when you're talking Coach Amirani at Bel Air and Coach Ford at Cambridge. Just the epic battles that those two teams went up against each other. And obviously this is going to be a tough contest for Cambridge. I mean, Bel Air 1-3, but record-wise, but they are a lot better than that 1-3 record. And I know Coach Leak was on, I think, week 2 with us, and he commented about he was actually in attendance their first game against Garaway. So I'm sure Coach Leak has a good game plan that they've instilled this week, and they're going to be ready to play Friday night.
Yeah, and 2 of their losses, you talk about the Garaway, a game that Bel Air led virtually the entire game till the last 30 seconds or less of that, where Garaway pulled out a victory. A team, the Pirates, a lot of people expect they have a chance to run to the Final Four when it's all said and done. They're that good and that well respected. And then another team they lost to was, by the way, Fort Fry, who a lot of people expect, if they stay healthy, that they have a chance to run a long ways as well. So that's some quality competition right out of the gate for the 2022 season that Bel Air has faced.
Yeah, you're talking about the playoffs earlier. If the playoffs started right now, Garaway would be the top seed in Division 5, Region 17, and Fort Fry would be the second team in Division 6, Region 23. So, again, two quality programs that year in, year out, they're always a team that you expect to see in the playoffs.
Yeah, Bel Air's opponents, they are 11-1 combined on the season so far. And with their opponent coming up, Cambridge, if I do the math real quick, 14-2. If you count the Bobcats record that they're facing this week. So it ought to be a lot of fun. And Train, if you like watching outstanding quarterbacks spin the football and throw it all over the field, we've talked Caden Moore in his exceptional play, not only this year, but the last 2 years as well. But Bel Air has a very familiar man back under center who can throw the football.
Yeah, Jake Hetherington's their starting quarterback. He's a solid all-around QB. Last week he threw for 149 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, everybody remembers his playmaking receiver, Ray Pettigrew. I'm pretty sure he's played. I think this is the third straight year that Cambridge Bel Air's played with getting set in the Buckeye. And Cambridge knows that he's a fast, athletic guy on the outside, that they like to get it to him in multiple different ways, whether it's through the air, down the field, or running quick slant, maybe some bubble screens, or doing a jet sweep of some sort with him. So they definitely have to watch out for him. And Taryn Frazier's been another wide receiver that's kind of stepped up this year for him. And they got a nice running back in Braden Roth who can do some damage as well.
Yeah, and Bel Air with Roth. Also, he had 77 yards and a touchdown last week in Bel Air's game. So Bel Air's balanced, and that ought to be a very entertaining game. And we hope you can make it out to McFarland Stadium. If you cannot, our good friends at YourRadioPlace.com, AVC, they will be live streaming the game. That should be BK, the legend, Bobcat, Bill Kafuri, and John Valentine, the sweet millitones of John Valentine. They will be bringing you that exciting action if you cannot get to that game. So it ought to be a lot of fun. Bel Air and Cambridge, a rivalry reunited here over the past few years. So it's great to see these two programs hooking up again. And we want to, speaking of hooking up, we want to thank our sponsor for the 2022 season here at the KGP pregame show. That's the Park Circle Cafe for sponsoring this show, as well as our fine student athletes in the area. So we're going to take a timeout, wish the Bobcats the best of luck Friday night, and when we come back, we'll look out at Old Washington with the Buckeye Trail Warriors, and they have a big road game as they travel to Uricksville to take on the Mustangs of Claymont this Friday night. So we'll talk a little Buckeye Trail football after this timeout on the KGP pregame show. Welcome back to the KGP pregame show. I'm merely Tom Strasser, my partner in crime, D-Train, Darren McCullough. We just talked a little Cambridge Bobcat football. Now let's look out at Old Washington and the Buckeye Trail Warriors. And Train, last week, we talked about it being a week of first, Meadowbrook getting their first win, Cambridge suffering their first loss, and Buckeye Trail playing their first game on their beautiful field turf, and the place was packed. You welcome one of your biggest rivals, the Shenandoah Zeps, who were undefeated coming in, and it was a game back and forth, a lot of momentum swings, but in the end, Buckeye Trail loses 36-20, so they're still looking for their first win, but a lot of positives came out of this game for the Warriors.
Oh yeah, I want to give credit to whoever took the aerial footage of the football field, the softball field, and basketball field. I saw it on Twitter.
The baseball.
What did I say? Baseball, softball, and football fields.
Yes.
I mean, that was just an amazing view. Just looking at that and seeing just the progress that's made since day one this spring to now. It looks like an absolutely amazing facilities there, and like you said, I mean, just a great atmosphere. A lot of people coming out, and unfortunately falling 36-20. But again, it seems like it's been the case of the past few years. Like they've been in games, and just that one mistake here, one mistake there has kind of cost the Warriors, and they're not able to overcome those mistakes, and came out on the short end of the stick.
Yeah, and Train, the one positive that the Warriors can continue to build on, some of the guys that have been missing, they're starting to get back. You look at the offensive line, Riley Bryan, this was his second game back, which was huge. Freshman Gavin Morris was able to take the field and see a little action for the first time. That helped. And a shout out to one of the seniors on the line, Will Hensley. He got hurt last week in their game at Barnesville the week before, and you didn't know if he was going to be available this week or be available for the entire season. But this kid, with a knee, has really he wrapped it up, and he led an offensive line that really played their best game of the season against Shenandoah. And Train, the thing that hurt the Warriors big was just costly penalties at inopportune times. Warriors led 7-0, 7-0 with under 2 minutes to go in the first half. And a couple of penalties. Zepp score to make the game 7-6 as they don't get the 2-point conversion with 1:34. And then credit to Zepps. After a big game for the Warriors, the Zepps with a big hit forced a fumble. They get the ball back, go down, score with 4 seconds on the clock from the goal line, last play of the first half. So Trail, who really controlled the first half, went to the locker room down 12-7 as the Zep scored 2 touchdowns in the last minute and 34 of the first half.
Yeah, it's hard when the last 94 seconds you're feeling good, you're up 7-0, you're shutting out your rival, everything's going good, and then just the wheels kind of came apart. And like you said, the penalties and turnovers, Buckeye Trail finished the game with 12 penalties, 120 yards, and they finished with 4 turnovers. Now the four turnovers is one thing, but they did not force any turnovers, so a -4 turnover ratio is definitely not a recipe for success. And I know, as well as you, Coach Kearns probably broke down that film over the weekend, and they're going to look to change some things and maybe throw some new wrinkles in here and see if they can correct some of these problems.
Yeah, and again, you look at the Zaps and their head coach, Josh Lowry. Boy, did they earn this victory. Their outstanding freshman quarterback, Braxton Barnett, Trail was able to put some pressure, get some hits on them early. And like we said, the Zaps offense really couldn't find their rhythm till towards the end of the first half. But then the second half, he really put on the show. And I thought it was big for the Zaps that they, with the pressure the Warriors defense was getting on them, and Warriors had a great defensive game plan orchestrated by their defensive coordinator, Terry Perry. The Zaps, though, they were able to get Barnett, the youngster, out on the perimeter some and let him throw the football on the run, and he really delivered 211 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Coach Kearns was on the pregame last week and said that they wanted to pressure Barnett, and obviously they did a good job of pressuring him. I think they finished with 3 or 4 sacks in the game. So, but credit to that young man. There's not too many 15, I'll say he's probably 15-year-old kids that are going to be able to withstand that pressure and come through and lead his team to victory. So definitely Coach Lowry and the Zeps are in a great situation where they got that kid patrolling their offense for the next 4 years.
Yeah, and one of their touchdown drives that ended on a touchdown carry into the end zone by Jacob Feldner, who was a workhorse. You talking about a bell cow for the Zeps. He had 25 carries on the game for, I believe, 84 yards and 2 or maybe 3 touchdowns on the ground. But Trail, we said they trailed at halftime 12-7, but boy, did they respond the opening drive of the second half as Nick Newhart, orchestrated a nice drive, and then he finished it off with an impressive touchdown pass to Cohen Egan.
Yeah, Nick Newhart probably had his best game of the year Friday night. Obviously, good job by the Warriors coaching staff making the adjustments at halftime and coming out and get that touchdown to reclaim the lead at 13-12 after the first possession. But Newhart finished with 104 yards passing, 2 touchdown passes, and he ran for another 103 and a touchdown. So that's what I dubbed we got the triple-double in basketball. We get the double-triple in football as when you get 100 rushing and 100 passing at least. That's called the double-triple. But great game by him. And then, of course, Cohen Egan's been the offensive playmaker for Buckeye Trail all year this year. So he finished with 7 catches, 60 yards, including that touchdown reception that you alluded to from Newhart. So definitely it's nice to kind of see like Newhart get going, because if he gets going, it's going to really expand what they can do in that Buckeye Trail offense, especially if he can use his legs, because he's got those long strides at 6'4", 6'5", and can get down the field in a hurry.
Yes, and Newhart, 2 touchdown passes, both of them to Cohen Egan, and that's for Cohen Egan. That's touchdowns 6 and 7 on the season for that youngster. And then Nick Newhart also ran one in from a yard out. So Nick Newhart, 2 touchdown passes and running one in. But Train, I tell you, a lot of times you look at one play that really sealed the deal in this game. And again, you got to give the Zeps credit. The Trail had scored in the fourth quarter with about 7 minutes left. They have the Zeps pinned back. It's 27-20, and the Zeps are facing a 3rd down and 15 deep in their own territory. And a lot of times with a freshman quarterback or any high school quarterback, you're going to be conservative, but not the Zeps. They put the ball in their freshman quarterback's hands. He delivered a strike around 3 yards short of the first down to their wide receiver, Hayes. He caught the ball. He broke a couple of tackles and then took it 85 yards to the house, and that ended up being the clincher right there. The Zeps would tack on a safety in the waning seconds late, but if they don't convert there, Buckeye Trail's getting the ball back with a chance to tie and then score and possibly 2-point conversion, have a chance to go for the win if they choose, or possibly overtime. But that really took the air out of the sails of the Warriors, and that was just the Zeps coming up with a big-time play to remain undefeated now at 4-0.
Oh, yeah, credit one, Coach Lowry, for having the guts to call that with a young freshman quarterback. And then more credit goes to Barnett for making the throw, the receiver, making the catch and run afterwards. I mean, you just got to tip your hat on a play like that. Is like, oh, you guys got us. I mean, usually a lot of 3rd and long situations, you expect maybe a draw or something to just kind of get a few yards, get out of the back of the end zone there, so to speak, or maybe a real quick pass, and hopefully you can break a tackle and make a play. But for them to throw the play down the field and complete it and get a big 85-yard touchdown pass shows a lot of faith that you have in your quarterback, one, and a lot of trust. And if they have that in him now as a freshman, it's going to be interesting to see how much this kid develops when he's a senior.
Yeah, and he's got playmakers on the perimeter. We talked about Hayes. Portman came up time and time again for the Zeps in the passing game. Feldner running the ball, but the offensive line. Cambridge talked about, Coach Leake talked about when they scrimmaged the Zeps. He was just amazed at the size of their line. And you need to take care of your little brother, so to speak, and let him make plays. And the Zeps offensive line did that. But like we said, Trail, they probably played their best game maybe of the season, and that was with the turnovers and penalties was just really hampered them. But now the Warriors bounce back, and still a lot to play for as they get on the run here, starting on the road against Claymont. The Mustangs are 1-3, but the thing year in and year out that Coach Kearns, when someone brings up Claymont, is their physicality. They are a very physical football team, and Trail has had a few tough battles with the Mustangs over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and they're a bigger school than Buckeye Trail, too. So you're talking about they get a bigger, more fish in their pond, so to speak, more kids to pick from on their team. And obviously, I think they've just improved their facilities this year, I think, as well. So hopefully things look nice there when the Warriors make the trip to Uricksville. But they're coming off a victory. They shut out Marietta last week. Again, Marietta is, I believe, a Division III school. So, yeah, they may be a little bit down, but still beating a school that's Division III, shutting them out 14-0, 13-0, 14-0, and it's an impressive win. I mean, I don't care who you are. If you beat a school that's bigger than you, that's an impressive win in my point of view. And obviously last year, Buckeye Trail had the impressive win, beating Claymont 18-13. They scored late in that game and was able to overcome some adversity at points during there, but picking up that win last year. And I'm sure Coach Kearns really wants to get that first win, because I think once they kick through the win column, I think the wins are going to start tallying up for the Warriors.
Yeah, and you look at Buckeye Trail's opponents. So heading into this game, their first four opponents have a combined record of 15-1. The only team with one blemish on their record is Harrison Central, and this is the only team that Claymont has played that Buckeye Trail has played as well. With that was week one with Harrison Central knocking off Claymont. I believe it was 36-18. So the score's very similar in the Huskies' victory over Trail and Claymont. So two teams that are really going to be hungry for a victory Friday night in Uricksville.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Claymont's going to be a tough team. Graydon Mooneyham, their starting quarterback, I believe he was a starting quarterback last year as well. He had 2 touchdown passes against Marietta last week, one to Jordan Connor and the other to Alex Terakidis, we'll say his name. He has Mooneyham's thrown for 555 yards and 5 touchdowns this year. So we talked about those 2 young receivers, but his number 1 receiver is Brody Moreland, who has 16 catches, 212 yards and a touchdown. Terakidis has 14 catches, 163 yards and 2 touchdowns this year. And I know all the focus has been on their aerial attack, but A.J. Bauscher had a 100-yard rushing game earlier this year, so he's another guy that you got to watch out for this Claymont team. And like you said, they're going to be physical and they're going to be tough, and it's going to be a Donnybrook up there in Uricksville on Friday night.
Yeah, and it ought to be a lot of fun, and we want to wish Coach Donnie Kearns, his coaching staff, and the football team the best of luck as they travel to Uricksville with a big game there, and then a big game looming after that against the undefeated Malvern Hornets at home against Buckeye Trail. So, we talked about Cambridge being 9th in their region. Right now, Trail and Meadowbrook out of the playoff top 16 right now, but really, work to do, and there's still light at the end of the tunnel. If you can get a little winning streak going here, then things change for you in a very, very good way.
Yeah, all you have to do is win the week. That's the goal every week. Win the week. Okay, we're week 5, win week 5. Okay, now we're on to week 6, win week 6. And whatever record you have, whatever the rankings give you, that's what you're going to get. And hopefully you're in those top 16 and you're playing week 11.
It's just good to say the P word. Playoffs. It's just it's one of the greatest words in the English language, that's for sure. So that concludes our Buckeye Trail segment as they travel to Claymont Friday night to take on the Mustangs in Uricksville. So I'm sure Big Blue Nation, a lot of their loyal and faithful fans will be making that trip. So that concludes our Buckeye Trail segment. Once again, we want to thank our sponsor for the KGP pregame show, Park Circle Cafe. We thank you for the great wings you provide for us and everybody throughout the week. So we'll take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll head to Byesville and talk a little Meadowbrook Colts football, their big victory that they had last week, in a big game Friday night coming up on the road as well. But and we'll do that with the head coach of the Meadowbrook Colts, Steve Norman, after this timeout on the KGP pregame show. Welcome back to the KGP pregame show, sponsored by Park Circle Cafe. As now we are truly honored to be joined by our special guest, the head coach of the Meadowbrook Colts. And again, we want to remind you, please do not adjust your screen in any way. He truly is that good looking. And Coach Norman, congratulations. Thanks for coming up to the show. And Coach, I want to ask you, going into the Crooksville game last week, the week before at Cambridge, things did not go the way you wanted or maybe expected. But leading up to the game against the Ceramics, how was practice and the guys' energy, so to speak?
Well, no, the week you spoke of previously did not go anywhere near the way we wanted it to. But fortunately, with a lot of high school kids, younger kids, we try to stress from the beginning of the season to the end that each and every week is there's really not very many of them, and you need to embrace each one with your 100% focus, attention, effort. So really, our turnaround process has been pretty good as far as being able to focus on who the next opponent is, and it helped that Crooksville is a small school conference opponent, and that we've had some success in the small school the last couple of years, and we're trying to keep that going. So the kids were, honestly, they were ready to get back at it Monday, and it was a pretty good week.
And Coach, before Trey asks a couple questions, I want to ask you, going into the game, as far as game plan, you knew you were going to have two teams that were very hungry, to get their first win of the season, because, they'd played some pretty tough competition, as well as the brutal schedule, that you had played coming in to the game Friday night. What were a couple of keys that you thought, hey, if we do these well, we have a chance to get the big W Friday night?
Yeah, well, Coach Latosa is he's a fellow Bethany grad like myself. So anyway, as we were talking, before the game, and essentially we both pointed to, how hungry the kids have still been. But we knew, from our perspective, you always control the line of scrimmage first and foremost. We had some chunks here and there. Going to, against Crooksville. Bob had a few plays. We felt like we were maybe just missing on a couple. And then, the second half, really, we just came out and reestablished what we were trying to do in the first half. We were just able to maybe a couple better reads on the run, maybe a couple, we finished a few blocks and, maybe picked up, some of the guys who were giving some issues. But, really it was control the line of scrimmage, get the run game going, which allows, your quarterback to play, a little more free, doesn't have to press as much. Same with, wideouts and receivers. As the run game goes, the coverage gets, a little easier as far as identification, those kind of things. So, But yeah, it was game plan essentially is what we asked from the beginning is, control the line of scrimmage, get the run game going, get Bop going, and hopefully feed off of all those things.
And obviously you talked about the week before was a rough game for you guys, but coming back defensively and pitching a shutout against these guys, you really had a lot of different guys step up. Freshman Jacob Burris had his first career varsity interception. The secondary probably had 2 or 3 other times where they could have had an interception, but they dropped it and possibly could have taken it to the house on a couple of them if they. Blankenship had the fumble recovery. I felt Talon Cannon and Noah Farley both made some plays at the linebacker spots. I felt defensively up front, you guys really dominated up front. Just give a shout out to all of those guys and how well they played. I mean, the list could probably go. Isaac Picari was another kid who I felt really been a big plus for you guys on the defensive line. Just talk about how the defense really responded after the week before and put up this great effort.
Yeah, they were, so again, up front, it always starts up front. It doesn't matter what side of the ball. But our front three did a really good job of not only penetrating, but also when plays were away, making sure they stayed in their assignment because again you get some of those cutback runs or teams like to run counter. But our defense, you mentioned Talon Cannon, Braden Black, who was a freshman, he was out there playing quite a bit. In our secondary, they did. Burris had to pick. You mentioned the one that was dropped. Trust me, I've gotten on Nick a few times about that. I tried to explain to him what prime time would be looking down the sideline, but he didn't quite get there. But no, the defense in general, obviously, pitch a shutout. That's fantastic. But then, as you look at all the parts, every group from the defensive line to the linebackers secondary, it was really just playing, together. Like. Coverages were matching, secondary was reading, they were coming up. So it was a great team effort. Again, we referenced the week before, it was not anything what we want to repeat or do over again. But last week, Crooksville was the next step. It was the last game, so hopefully we can build on that. Looking at a very physical Riverview team that has been playing pretty well as of late. So we're going to need to up that defensive intensity to go into Warsaw and get what'll be a hard fought battle. Just Meadowbrook Riverview games are hard fought battles. That's the way they are, and we'll need to match that intensity for sure. And
Coach, your game with the Ceramics, you go into the locker room at 0-0. Yeah. What was the mood like at halftime, and what was maybe said that hey, we've got to get it going here in the second half?
Right. Again, it was, so we were in a few plays that we felt like should have been more successful than they were. And it would be, our double team to the backside backer. We weren't getting the backside backer, so now he's making the play. Or, we're blocking back on their 3 technique and, he was defeating the block, so we weren't getting able to get our guards and tackles up through like we like to. So really it was just to re-emphasize what we were doing and making sure we were identifying, the guys who were, in the box. We always tell our offensive linemen to identify the box, meaning the guys that were blocking and the guys we're not blocking. So it was just kind of a re-emphasis of, what we felt like we were close to hitting, and then, we got a few of those plays there in the second half. Not to be loud there in the, you guys remember, right in the third quarter there, we were backed up, and it's 4th and 2 on our, like we're inside our 20, and we just made a decision at that point, like we have to get something going, and to be totally honest, our defense, the way they were playing, we felt like it was a situation we could go for. We got it, ended up getting. They ended up having a penalty on that same play, and then, a couple plays later, we ended up hitting Braylon down the sideline. So, it worked out, but, we needed a little kickstart there. Once we got the first one, I remember Coach Jarrett saying he felt like, he just scored 40 points after, just getting that first one. But it was a good second half. And again, it was, football, the game of inches. You've heard that a million times, but when you're talking about a lineman's head being 6 inches on this side of a person's body on a kick out as opposed to this side, and it makes the whole difference of whether your tackle can get through and your running back can get through, it really is a game of inches, and we were fortunate enough to find those inches there in the second half.
And Train, let's pump the brakes right here for just a second, because our man, he jumped and answered the question that I had to ask, because I've already nominated it for the 2022 gutsiest call of the season, and I think it's got a great chance to win. Just to back that up for just a second, it's 0-0 midway through the third quarter. Crooksville punts the ball. They pin you back at your own 9-yard line or so, and you come up and you have a 3rd down and 2. You don't get it. And then you're sitting there and it's 4th down. Now, me and Train love football. We love it when they have coaches mic'd. You see it on TV all the time, and you hear them, they say, hey, we're down 7. We scored this drive. We're going for 2 in the win. They decide it right then. When did you start thinking, hey, if we don't get this 1st down, we're going for it, inside our own 20. And not only that, are we going to go for it? We're going to throw the football, and we're going to pick up the 1st down.
Well, it started with, the 3rd down play. We just liked the look that we got, and we just felt like we didn't execute it. But they came out in a coverage that we thought we were going to get. We were pretty confident in that. But again, as soon as 3rd down was over, it's hey, let's go, let's go. And I always joke, because on the headset I can flip back and forth between offense and defense. I didn't want to flip over to the defensive side at that moment. Because I'm not sure what I would have heard, but I think I'm pretty sure what I would have heard. But no, it was just an attitude. Like our kids, we felt like we needed to make a play. We felt like they had the ability to make a play, and we felt like they were going to give us a look that we could make a play in. So yeah, and then we go to throw it. So and at Crooksville's defensive ends up to that point, there's a couple of times they got in Justice's way, and we had one on film where they were batting balls down left and right. So again, we liked the play. We liked how they were going to line up to it. So we just went for it, and thankfully it worked out.
And Train, we'll let him go get some wings. I want to ask you one question on that.
All
when
right.
they lined up to go for it, was you getting ready to say, "Oh, here comes the old quick kick from the quarterback that you see a lot of times"?
I have to admit, I was thinking, it's like, well, I'm like, Meadowbrook's going to be punting here, and then I'm like, wait, Clint Denning's not back there. Huey's back there.
We do have that.
So, obviously in the past they've done that, but hey, sometimes you gotta challenge your team, and Coach Norman and those guys challenged them, and they responded well, and that was a great confidence boost. And those kids need the confidence, and obviously looking back in hindsight's 2020, but it's a great call, right?
Right. Everybody always gets 2 guesses. We only get 1. I try to remind everybody of that. It's like coaching baseball when you send a guy from third and he gets thrown out. Like, hey, you got 2 guesses over there. I only get 1, in that moment. So, but fortunately, again, it worked out. It was, good execution. Ultimately led to our touchdown.
And Train, I'm sure that's the first time you've ever called a game where you have a 55-yard touchdown strike to take the lead, and that's the second biggest play of the series.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but you're exactly right on that. And all you can say is credit to the coaches for calling the play, and more importantly, the players for executing, because that's what it's been about. And like I said, from 30 to 30, you guys from the 30-yard line to the 30-yard line, you guys have been a potent offense.
Yes.
Just been able to move with ease. But it seems like once that offense gets inside the 30, it seems like things just have kind of stalls out for you guys, and it just.
Frustrating.
Frustrating is the only word you can think of. But I guess if you guys can start hitting those big plays like you did with the 55-yard touchdown pass, and Bob's his touchdown was 45 yards. We don't have to worry about getting inside the 40 or getting inside that red zone. Let's just hit some big plays that can be reminiscent of Meadowbrook offense the past few years.
There you go. Yeah, no, we certainly would. We like the big plays. Don't get me wrong. Now, every day in practice, we work red zone. That's the first thing we do right after stretch. we get into a little individual work for about 5 or 10 minutes, and we go straight red zone offense and defense, and we're hoping it's going to pay. It's going to pay off. Hopefully, they've been putting the work in. We try to come up with schemes that things based on what other teams do. But we got to figure that out for sure if we want to get to where we want to go.
And Coach, before we look to your big showdown on the road against Riverview, what can you say about your running back, Sam Bob? Now, he had 150 yards and a touchdown. The week before against Cambridge, I don't know if I've ever seen a running back gain 52 yards and earn every single
yard,
inch, because he got hit from every which way and still was able to muster 52 yards, the toughest 52 I've seen all season. Let's be honest, he's not the biggest horse in the barn, but boy, he sure runs like he is.
Yeah, he we always kid him about his gas tank, 'cause he's not a real big guy. I'm like, come on, how big can that gas tank be, right? So, but he does. He runs and plays hard. There's a clip, and you guys might remember against Crooksville. We actually he was playing some linebacker and he got sent on an A-gap blitz that didn't all work out in his favor, partly because of the physical difference between the lineman who was blocking him and himself. But again, it's not because of him not trying to run through that particular area. But no, he has a great motor. He really, just in practice, he runs as hard as he does in a game. We're hoping that this week we get one of our other tailbacks back who, so they can just constantly be going 100 miles an hour, and then maybe get a blow here and there. But hopefully that works out. But no, Sam's been he was like that last year. You guys remember his run there towards the end of the season. He's done a great job for us, and he always wants the football, which is awesome. And again, he's always going to give you everything he has every play.
Yeah, I think he finished with 30 carries on the Friday night. And so Kyle and I were actually talking, like, is he going to get 50 carries tonight? which for a guy his size, like 5'6", 140, that's pretty impressive. And I just love watching the guy, obviously undersized kid, and you're going up against some horses trying to bust through that line. Shows just how tough he really is. So on to Riverview. This is a team that started the year off slow, obviously, but you look at their 2 losses. Week 1 is against Ridgewood, obviously a state powerhouse year in, year out. Week 2 loss was to Morgan, who maybe not. Maybe at week 2 you weren't really thinking much about it, but Morgan shocked and had a chance to beat Sheridan last week in their contest last Friday night. So Morgan's definitely a team you got to watch out for. And then they defeated Crooksville, and then another shock, they defeated Philo last week. It looks like their defense was the catapult for them. Just talk about their defense, and they were very opportunistic. Forced 3 turnovers, I think. Held Philo to under 200 yards, less than 3 yards a carry. So talk about that Riverview defense and what's going to be some of the keys for you guys offensively.
Yeah. So Riverview, they when you hear Riverview, you already know 2 things you're going to get. Big, strong linemen, and just tough kids. They line up in a similar defense to what we line up in and what John Glenn lines up in. So from that aspect, it's a little familiar, but at the same time, they 2 of their linemen. If you remember last year when we played them, number 70 is a big, strong kid. Number 66, big, strong kid. Those guys kind of anchor their line, and then in the middle, they might have. We've seen a lot of good middle linebackers so far this year, and this Cruz boy is probably
Cruz Mobley. Yeah,
Cruz Mobley. He looks like he's about 215 pounds of pure aggression. So no, he's going to be a problem for sure. But we as far as scheming it, again, it's a look that we're familiar with, but it doesn't make it any easier because you still have to block them. You can draw them up on paper all you want, but you actually got to block and stay engaged. So that'll be the first challenge. The second challenge is their safeties. And corners are both they're athletic. They're pretty fast. Number 12. Pardon me, I don't have all the names. I just kind of the numbers when you see.
I
them
know
on the
Mason
film.
Giffen and Mark Dickerson are two of their guys in the secondary to watch for.
Yeah, those guys. They move really well. And again, those are a lot of kids that we saw last year. So I know they got some experience. But just a big physical football team. Comparable to the Philo team that we saw and you had mentioned that they just beat Philo, but as far as physicality wise, that's body types, that's what it reminds you of. So we certainly got our work cut out for us as far as Riverview's defense is concerned. They're like I said, tough physical kids. We got eyes on a few of those games, and sometimes the score is a little deceiving. Maybe week one. They had a few turnovers. They were pretty key in the first half. But, they, like I said, beat Philo, beat Crooksville. Morgan appears to be, pretty legit football team this year. So, they're going to be a problem. Something we'll have to certainly raise our game up to have some success.
And, Coach, you seen some offenses that really like to run the ball at you, like Barnesville, and teams that will pass the ball all over the place, like Cambridge.
Right.
Now, schematically, when you look at the Riverview offense, is there a team that you've played thus far offensively that they are similar to as far as what they're trying to accomplish?
I would say, they're obviously all teams are a little unique. As far as, they're not really, they'll throw the ball. I don't want to say they're not going to throw the ball, but, they do like to run the ball quite a bit. I would say probably more like Barnesville, although Barnesville throws the ball pretty effectively as well. But, not like what we saw week 3, and week 1 was, kind of a combination of some busted plays with a big play quarterback. So I guess, out of the teams we've seen to this point, I would say probably more similar to Barnesville. Again, big, strong kids up front, good, tough running backs. Quarterback that can throw it if he has to, but, he can run. So I guess that would be my comparison, I guess, more like Barnesville than maybe anybody else. Not necessarily scheme-wise, but, as far as what they're trying to do to you.
So another guy who I look at as a possible equalizer for them is Bruno Miller. He's an exchange student from Germany. He's their kicker.
Yes.
So this is a kid that you don't see every day who can boot it into the end zone, but he can kind of kick it down to the 2 or 3 yard line. Now that field position battle is crucial, especially when you got a young team like you guys that.
Yeah. You watch him on film and he gets up there and he crushes the ball down to like the 2. Several times it goes in the end zone, which, to all, area soccer players or whatever, you are a great asset. If you can just kick the ball in the end zone, that's a big deal. But, he does that, so, and it, as we went over tonight and Monday, it does adjust your kickoff return, scheme as far as, how far guys are dropping, where you're setting them up. You're teaching the kid, hey, we're at the 5 yard line. If that ball's over your head, we're just going to let it, get in the end zone. But he's had a few that check up at like the 3, which is another issue. So, it's a great weapon. We saw that, last year with Emerson at
John Glenn.
John Glenn. It's a great, like I said, it's a great weapon. Someone who can kick and drive the ball in the end zone. So, they've got that as well. So, not only do they have the big physical kids on defense, now you actually got it. You're probably going to have to go 80 yards. You're not going to get a shorter field or anything like that.
So he's got that nice pitching wedge as a right leg or left leg, whichever he has.
It's he's right-footed. Boy, it's impressive. So.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy week. I know you got a big game this Friday night as you travel to take on the Riverview Bears, and it ought to be a lot of fun. We want to congratulate you on your win last week against Crooksville. I tell you, it's been fun watching your young squad, they've had to take their lumps, but they continue to grow and fight, and we see the improvement and a lot of things to be excited for. And it'll be a big one this Friday night in Warsaw as you take on Riverview. And again, best of luck. And we always appreciate your time. You're always good for ratings, Coach.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me in. I would be remiss if I took a shot at the Bears the last time I was here. And, just so everybody's aware, they're 1-0.
Best record in the NFL.
As are my Steelers, so we're good. So, but yeah, wanted to make sure I clear that up. But thank you guys. Appreciate everything you do.
Well, since my Raiders are right now 0-1, we're going to cut this NFL segment short. But we want to thank Coach Norman and wish him and his squad the best of luck. And I'm sure that Big Orange Nation will be making that trek down to Warsaw and rooting these young Colts on a big game against a very talented Riverview Black Bear squad. So we want to once again thank Park Circle Cafe for sponsoring our preview show for the 2022 season. And we'll take our last time out. And when we come back, we'll give out some weekly awards here on the KGP pregame show. Welcome back to the KGP pregame show as we wrap things up here, looking ahead to week 5 as well as the opportunity to look back last week at week 4. And once again, we want to thank the head coach of the Meadowbrook Colts, Steve Norman, for being our special guest for this week's show. And now, Train, it's time to give out some awards. First, we'll look at the KGP Defensive Player of the Week. And again, we had some standouts in the area. Yeah,
we'll start at Cambridge. Xander Caldwell had 5 tackles and a sack in their tough loss at Indian Valley. Obviously, whenever you pitch a shutout on the defensive end, there's numerous guys you can talk about. You talk about Burris getting the INT. Blankenship had a fumble recovery for Meadowbrook. Cannon had a great game at linebacker. Farley, great game at linebacker. Isaac Carey had a great game on the defensive line. But our winner is going to be Noah Betts, Buckeye Trail. He had 12 tackles, 11 of them solo, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack. So a great effort down to him for the Warriors. Yeah, I tell you, Noah Betts put together one of the better defensive efforts that I've seen this season against a quality Shenandoah Zep team. So congratulations to our KGP Defensive Player of the Week from Buckeye Trail, and that's Noah Betts. And now we'll look at the KGP Offensive Player of the Week. And again, some standout performances. Yeah, we'll start at Cambridge again. Caden Moore, we say, has an off night with only 212 yards and a touchdown, 212 yards passing and a touchdown. Davian Barr, 5 catches, 90 yards and a touchdown. Devin Ogle, 6 catches, 82 yards. Newhart have 104 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 103 rushing, and a touchdown. Cohen Egan had 7 catches, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Warriors. Nick Norman, 7 catches, 72 yards for Meadowbrook. But we have to go with Mighty Mouse, Sam Bopp, 150 yards rushing and a touchdown, a big 45-yard touchdown run late in that game to help seal the Meadowbrook 13-0 shutout victory for their first win of the 2022 year over Crooksville. And doing that on 30 carries, which is absolutely amazing. So we want to congratulate Sam Bopp, this week's KGP Offensive Player of the Week. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. We want to thank you for tuning in and giving us a little time out of your week to watch the show. And as always, we want to thank Park Circle Cafe for sponsoring the 2022 KGP preview show for this season. And again, to wrap it up this Friday night, Cambridge at home back at McFarland Stadium, looking to get back on the winning track against an outstanding Bel Air squad. Meadowbrook hits the road to Warsaw to take on the Riverview Black Bears, and Buckeye Trail will travel to Uricksville to take on the Claymont Mustangs. We want to wish the Bobcats, Warriors,
and colts. The best of luck. So for Caleb Graham and the entire KGP family, I'm Tom Strasser, and for D-Train, we want to wish everyone a great weekend and try to get out to the Guernsey County Fair. Caleb Graham Productions is there, and they are filming a lot of the kids, what they're showing and stuff like that. So if you can't get out there, tune in to KGP and see what's going on. But get out there for the Guernsey County Fair. It's great weather, and everybody have a super duper, albeit safe, weekend.
You stay classy, Guernsey County.